Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I'm very honored to be a moderator for this session and having very distinguished speakers with me. So here, I'm gonna introduce our session, and let me talk about this theme. Our Roundtable 2, STEAM should power the SDGs. Expanding opportunities for scientific training is an essential component of economic development for all nations. Science, technology, engineering, art, and math, or STEAM, is an interdisciplinary learning model that offers new opportunities for creating sustainable models of production and consumption. Public health, urban design and infrastructure, water distribution, and food and energy production. But there are some problems. Despite these multiple benefits, STEAM faces critical, interlinked financing and access gaps. Science, technology, engineering, and math are subordinately difficult to access for many in developed countries, and in particular for girls. The technology gap and financing for it grows exponentially in developing countries and is particularly acute for marginalized groups. Art and design in their purest form also suffer from a lack of investment, leaving questions about the value governments and communities put on creative thinking as a driver for innovation and problem solving. So this roundtable will explore practical investment, policy, and advocacy strategies to expand access to science, technology, engineering, art, and math education that leaves no one behind and proactively reaches out to girls and women. Second, best practice examples of STEAM education and information provided to socially and culturally vulnerable people, including girls, women, and minorities, will be presented, highlighting how innovation can help confront the most pressing current research challenges facing the SDGs. Examples of how art and design can be deployed to spark innovation in scientific and engineering context will also be offered. Advances in information and communication technology that offer major new opportunities for delivery of innovative STEAM curricula to schools and educational centers around the world, rich and poor, will be discussed. So I will run this session having 3 groups of speakers. And then at the end, we are gonna discuss about how we are going to promote STEAM access to fight for gender equality and reducing inequality and empowering women. And then what is the future direction? And actually currently we are using advances of ICT, how this can offer us to promote STEAM education to sustainable development achievement to everybody in the world. So the first speaker we have Ms. Saphira Rameshfar. And before we go here with her, I want to ask some questions to audience. So the way we are going to run this session is going to be more interactive, and we want to engage your ideas and thoughts. Who can talk about your understanding of global citizen? What characteristics and skills or competencies global citizen should have? Can anybody talk about it? I know you cannot shout because it's too big conference room, so if you want to speak about it, you have to come to the microphone. Is anybody here? So actually, there's one person.
Well, I'm sorry. Just as Mr. Pan Ki-moon shared today morning, I think passion and compassion are the 2 factors that the youth leaders around the world should have. Yes.
Oh, compassion, passion. Oh, that's very good. So thank you so much for your brilliant ideas and then some of the Secretary General's speech today. How about our speakers? Is there anybody who wants to talk about your understanding? Oh, yeah, okay. Mr. Wong.
Thank you. Eunhee asked me this question earlier, and I struggled to answer it. But for me, there's two key things about global citizenship. I think one is about taking responsibility, and secondly, and more importantly, acting on global challenges and opportunities. Thank you.
Oh, so actually we are very close to each other. We happen to call the first name with each other. I don't know if you know about this culture. In Korea, you never call first name in the very official stage, right? But in America and other country, if you call just last name, continue it, they feel like, oh my God, they don't like me, right? So we kind of arrange the way we call each other. So we are going to follow some universal role for the UN conference. So we are going to call somebody by their title, but most of them, they would like to call each other by name. I hope you are not surprised. Okay, so Jonathan is talking about some global citizenship to be more technology and science matter, economic aspect, right? And then I also watched the TED Talk, and somebody was saying global citizenship, somebody just mentioned, is compassion. If you're a global citizen, you should do some action to help people in difficult situations. If you think this is a very good concept of global citizenship, can you raise your hand? 1, 2. And others? It's all about getting a good job, making a good money, and economic growth? Globally competitive? Actually, that's true. In America, they say global competency. They are trying to compete to be better than others. They call global competency. But throughout this session, I want you to keep thinking what global citizenship means exactly. There should be some component. When TED Talk speakers talk about global citizenship to be making an action to help others, and then the audience in the underserved areas, what she talked about was, how about us? We are in such a difficult situation. We cannot help others, then we cannot be a global citizen? So here's a question. So I hope you can keep thinking about the concept of global citizen. And then now we have distinguished presenter. So Saphira is gonna talk about her thought as a youth, how she understands global citizenship, what is the important component in it. So she is NGO representative to the United Nations of the Baha'i International Community. So she's gonna speak.
Thank you, Eunhee. So the implementation of Agenda 2030 and the SDGs is far-reaching in its scope and world-embracing in its vision. And it will require increased capacity to be built in a growing number of individuals, communities, and institutions with the ultimate objective of promoting universal participation in the construction of a prosperous world civilization. Education is central to the process of capacity building. So education for global citizenship should develop in each of us a rich and deepening consciousness of the oneness of humankind. A civilization befitting our humanity will not emerge through the efforts exerted by a select group of people. Rather, the challenge to construct a better world must be faced by all of humanity. Every member of the human family has not only the right to benefit from a vibrant and prosperous civilization, but also the obligation to contribute towards its construction. While our approach to education should be lifelong, and all generations should be working shoulder to shoulder to build a better world, it is our youth who are most impacted by educational processes. Education for global citizenship must therefore help young people not just to cope with the world, but to transform it for the better. They need access to an education that sharpens their critical thinking, that trains their mind to assess their local context and their reality, to engender scientific thought and approach, to enkindle the sensibilities of the higher nature, and to allow their creative faculties to flourish. If approached with an appropriate framework in mind, one that gives due consideration to the true nature of a human being and the ultimate purpose of education, the STEAM model, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, shows promise in strengthening the implementation of the SDGs and beyond. So I wanted to open our roundtable by sharing some principles that underpin this STEAM model. So let's first look at science. We cannot solve the world's problems without an understanding of what created them in the first place. With scientific training, we can observe reality, note patterns, formulate robust theories, and draw on reliable evidence. Scientific thinking can assist us in abandoning frenetic behavior that does not examine the intended or unintended consequences of our choices and policies. So science is not just a subject to be studied, but it's a capacity of the mind. Then a look at technology reveals that it has never been more rapidly or widely proliferated. And young people around the world should have equal opportunities to access technology, to develop the skills to navigate current media, and to innovate technology that can contribute to the common good. As we conceive of new models of living sustainably, creativity and entrepreneurship in the arena of engineering will further open up. A holistic approach to the field of engineering, one that takes into account a deep and accurate understanding of human nature, could lead to profound social changes, deeply impactful on human well-being. And when we think about the arts, at some point in life, every human being must ask him or herself questions about the nature of existence. Why are we here? What is the meaning and purpose of life? What leads to happiness and well-being? So exposure to the arts, to the finest literature conceived by enlightened minds, to beautiful art created by dexterous hands, to soul-stirring music. Art has the ability to transcend the ordinary to the sublime. And our young should not only be exposed to the very best that has been created over time, but should also develop the skill set themselves to add to the rich canopy of human experience, offering a contribution that can transcend time and space and have a lasting impact on humanity. And finally, mathematics. Numeracy provides a shared language of numbers and symbols that connects us with people across continents and across time. It could be synonymous to a universal language, and it's a very visible manifestation of the interconnectedness and oneness of humanity. So in order to bring about a world characterized by universal participation, education must go beyond training and information. It must build volition and capacity, allowing people to develop their inner talents while simultaneously nurturing their desire and ability to use them for the advancement of their communities. Education must not be limited to a conceptual framework that regards it in terms of input and output, or that treats children merely as future workers. If we are provided with skills to make change, but do not know how to channel those skills, what good is education to begin with? And we only have to look at our history as a species or the news in every country to understand that we all have latent powers for construction, but also for destruction. True education for global citizenship will develop in our youth a conviction that honor and happiness lie not in the pursuit of wealth or power for their own sake, but in self-respect, noble purposes, in integrity and moral quality. And the road ahead, though paved with struggle and sacrifice, is exciting and full of promise, and we can scarcely begin to imagine the glory of a world civilization where individuals, institutions, and communities, harmonized by their noble aspirations, create the spaces and opportunities for all people to develop their talents. Thank you.
Thank you, Saphira. That was very inspiring thought about global citizenship and involving harmony and happiness also and humanity. Thank you so much. This is another components we need to think about when it comes to global citizenship. Now we have Honorable Excellency Ambassador Joon Oh. He is permanent representative of Republic of Korea to the United Nations, and he also serves as a United Nations ECOSOC president. And we are going to hear about the UN's thought on global citizenship, and then what initiative or what structural framework UN has been providing to promote global citizenship.
Thank you very much, Eunhee. It's great to be here. I think, in my opinion, global citizenship has a lot to do with how we identify ourselves. When we start out in life, when we are a kid, we usually identify ourselves as a member of our family, our parents' child, and sisters and brothers. So that's the whole world we have when we are a child. But as we grow up, our identity zone expands, and then we make friends in school, in neighborhood, and then we consider ourselves as a member of a larger community, like school, same school, and neighborhood, hometown. And then at one point in our life, we learn to know that we are part of a state, a nation. It's pretty artificial, but that's what we have. We have this institution called a state, a nation. Actually, nation is more in your blood. So we speak the same language, we share the blood, and we form a nation with these people. Nation and state are not necessarily the same. A state can have many nations, and one nation can be dispersed all over different states. But anyway, that's when we think about state, nation. In the past, I think that was enough. People didn't need to go beyond. But now we live in a globalized world, and we travel a lot. We communicate with people living in other countries. Most of us do that. So we need to have a larger identity. I think that's, when we consider ourselves as part of humanity, that should be something called global citizenship. In the United Nations, global citizenship, especially education for global citizenship, is important in all three pillars of the United Nations. What are the three pillars of the United Nations? First pillar is peace and security. Second pillar is development. Third pillar is human rights. When the UN was created 70 years ago, I think the founding fathers of the United Nations were very wise and visionary. They realized that to maintain peace and security, security arrangements are not enough. You need to have a world where people are prosperous and people can enjoy human dignity. That's how the concept of development and human rights always come together in the work of the United Nations. So SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, we adopted last September. SDG number 4 is quality education. It is not only a standalone goal, but it is a cross-cutting issue because if you have a quality education that enables us to achieve other goals as well. That's why education is important. So when I go back to my first concept of identity, when we are trying to have a kind of a large identity like a member of humanity, I think education is important because we form our identity when we grow up during our formative stage. That's where education matters, and education has the greatest impact in our life. So with all these new challenges, global challenges like violent extremism and terrorism and refugee issues, it is all the more important to have global citizenship and to promote this concept through education. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very, yeah, thank you. Our speakers keep thanking. So thank you so much for your United Nations understanding of global citizenship. It is very inspiring about the identity, our identity should go broader, not just on your state, but also to the world. And then education will promote this identity to grow and also impact on our life. And the United Nations try to promote this idea throughout the UN's mission, and then so that SDG can be achieved. So here, I have some questions for our two distinguished presenters. And first of all, I was very much inspired by Saphira about including humanity. Actually, Ambassador also included humanity into global citizenship. And could you please share your experience, even in the individual level? Because having humanity and holistic approach to have global citizenship seems to be very much of a core of being global citizen. And if you have any story you can share about some individual who actually build up their global citizenship in a way more sensitive to others, not only just seeing the world in a global fashion. So could you please share that? Thank you.
Yeah, so I can share a story, a little example about this. The work of the Baha'i community around the world really focuses on the local context, and it has a long-term vision about empowering a community to deal with all dimensions of development. And it requires us to build capacity, and so our efforts often start at a small scale. And they start with education as a foundation of community building. So I've been doing some work with the Junior Youth Empowerment Program, which is a community-based education program for adolescents between the ages of 12 and 15. And it's implemented at the local level. Often groups of around 10 to 20 young people will come together in a neighborhood setting. It could be at a community center or in a local park or even in someone's home. And the purpose of the program is to empower these adolescent youth to contribute to the betterment of the community. So it equips them with the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes to do so effectively. And so they read stories about other young people from various cultures around the world, and they learn through their stories and their experiences, and they explore a value-based and moral kind of life lesson approach to that. And so STEAM is a critical part of bringing this program to life. So through the books, the young people learn about a scientific approach to reading their own social reality. And then from there, they use the arts to come up with a creative community service project to influence their own spheres, their own local contexts. And these service projects, although they're small for 12-year-olds, they start small and they learn through doing. And they learn through a series of iterations, and their projects grow in complexity. So a couple of very small examples of what these young people are doing. For example, in Australia, when we talk about social development, often young people think, well, there's not much for me to do. You know, there's clean water, we've got a strong education system, we've got a strong health system. But through consultation and really observing their social reality, a lot of the young people in the group realized that they shared common challenges to do with racial discrimination, very subtle microaggressions at school. And so they decided to do something about it. And they thought that a first port of call would be to bring their families together and really have an intimate conversation about it. So they had a little multicultural lunch where they brought their family and their neighbors together and to really discuss about racial unity. And so from that starting point of a small conversation, they then started to contribute in other artistic ways. They wrote to their local newspaper, they started to put together artistic presentations to share in a local talent show. And so the fullness of the process, going from observing their social reality to be able to do something about it, to observe and to care, really starts to develop in them the qualities and the characteristics of being a citizen of a local community. And this happens in many, many different contexts. So, for example, in India, young people did a similar thing looking at road safety and raising awareness. And so they went about talking to people in the streets about road safety. For example, if you're not wearing a helmet, they would speak to these people about the consequences of that and how giving way to others and stopping at stoplights is important for the safety not only of themselves but of their whole community. And so they presented these people, when they spoke to them, they presented them with a red rose, explaining that they're a group of young people dedicated to the betterment of their communities. And this rose is a gift and a reminder that we hope others will join them in working for the betterment of their community as well. So these are some small examples of projects where young people, where the seeds have been planted for them to really think about their role in a local context as a global citizen. And it's had a very profound impact on their own identities and how they see themselves.
Thank you so much. So listening to you is like the little youth, kids, having some impact on community, local community. I would like to ask one question. I hope Ambassador Oh could answer to this question. This local community have this youth engagement, and I think if we can bring up this youth to the global level, it will give more impact. So could you please talk about what UN, especially ECOSO, provide to have those all young people get together and promote their local impact to be more global?
Thank you. Well, even this morning, I think you all heard Secretary General Ban Ki-moon introducing Ahmed. Where is he? He might be here. Secretary General Special Envoy for Youth. He's about 30 now, so I don't know if he's still young, but he represents the youth of the world and very active. And we hold a meeting called Youth Forum every year, usually in February, under ECOSOC presidency. So ECOSOC presidency is me, so under my presidency, we held the recent one in February this year. And the forum had a record number of participants this year. We had 800 participants, and the enthusiasm and passion of participants growing every year. We see a lot of youth participants there. So I would encourage all the people here who consider themselves as youth, please try to participate in UN Youth Forum. Don't forget it. It takes place in February every year. And we have a seating arrangement according to which the representatives of member states and youth representatives sit next to each other. So we intentionally put youth representatives in between member states, ambassadors, and counselors, so that meeting can be more interactive. And it's a UN meeting, but it also has some music, some festivity, some form of it's very lively and very exciting occasion. So that's how we are doing. But that's just one of the things we are doing in the UN. We try to have civil society and especially youth representatives in almost every meeting of ECOSOC, at least, as far as I'm concerned. Because ECOSOC is, according to the UN Charter, is the channel for the outside world of the United Nations. So ECOSOC is one of the responsibilities of ECOSOC is to reach out to the world, to civil societies, to non-government players. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you so much. Actually, at the UN, there are lots of youth events going on. So United Nations, we really appreciate they try to promote youth influence on this SDG achievement. So thank you so much for introducing that UN's action and effort on that. Now let's talk about each nation's practices on STEAM education promotion to achieve SDGs together. So here we have distinguished speaker from Mexico, Mr. Virgilio Andrade Martinez. He is a Minister of Public Administration from Mexico.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much. It's an honor for my country and for me to stay here and to speak in a new environment of NGOs and the development of a global citizen. I would like to start saying that for me, a global citizen is a citizen oriented to competition, but not at old-fashioned competition, which used to consist in defeat the other. The new era of competition is the capacity to resolve problems in cooperation. This is the new orientation that the global citizen should be instead of competition to defeat the others. So, said that, I would like to talk about what are the bases that Mexico is developing in order to establish an essential platform for the future development of a STEAM model. The base is the telecommunication reform. The telecommunication reform to break monopolies. Breaking monopolies is a signal of equality to attempt to create an equal environment for everybody, because monopolies is a sign of inequality in the access to the communication, and it's a very basic obstacle to develop global citizens. So telecommunication reform was the base to break monopolies and to create a very free, open networking of places to have access to internet. The second key in Mexico to establish the platform is a national digital strategy, which third strategy is precisely quality education, based on a new institution, new public agency, which name is Aprende, and the meaning is learning. Learning is the institutional platform to develop programs about the STEAM models. We have this environment of situation of the telecommunications in Mexico. We have more than 50% as internet users, but we have to develop much more. So the telecommunication reform was very, very essential for this development of the future. We have the opportunity to reach and to have programs inside the time spent online that Mexicans spend, 5 hours a day. Thanks to the reform, prices slower and prices down according to the access to internet. So reform contributes to have a more equal environment for citizens. This is our numbers, but basically the idea is that prices and tariffs goes down for everybody, thanks to the broken of monopolies. This is the growth of internet users in Mexico, 31% during the last 2 years. So we enter really to a digital era in Mexico. According to the other side, the National Digital Strategy, we are developing two kinds of situations: institutions and tools. Institutions, the first one is Aprende, like I just said, to establish programs in the 5th dimensions of the STEAM model. But we have another kind of strategies. The network of Mexico Connected, from 100,000 to 250,000 of places to have free access to internet. At the same time, at the basic education, a digital literacy program which emphasizes math and arts in the content, but through a digital ways. The third, Mexico X platform, is a medium-high education with programs in a digital size with 58 courses. The first courses is about math, management, and innovation, but we can, or we have the platform to develop the another fields of STEAM models. And finally, we have the development of the digital university, the UNADM. Today we have 89,000 students with an open and distance learning. So we transform the university in a digital way. The National University is a symbol of Mexican education, and according to the basis, the president created through a decree the open and distance learning with this National University. And finally, Digital Prospera is a program with the social development policy that we have in Mexico for the poverty. In Mexico, we have about 12 million people which be attended by social programs, and one of these programs is through the development of digital channels for houses and for special towns for people, and the attention is for 7 million. Thank you very much for this base and essential speech. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Minister Andrade, for introducing Mexico's very auspicious policies in ICT and digital technology to promote STEAM and to achieve SDGs. Now we have Dr. Seunghwan Kim, President, Korea Foundation for Advancement of Science and Creativity. He's going to talk about Korea's initiative to promote STEAM and his thought.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So, as you know, Korea rose from one of the poorest countries in the world to an economic power with the help of education and science technology. So the name STEAM itself was coined in Korea, and we are very happy to make a presentation on our best practice. Let me start with a recent match in Seoul between professional golf player Saddle Lee and this AI artificial intelligence program called AlphaGo, which was given a global media attention. So with this game and as its outcome, we came to realize that a world where human lives side by side, probably with artificial intelligence, is no longer a dream of the far future, but an immediate reality. According to the report of Davos Forum, innovations, including AI, will eventually result in the disappearance of many jobs, maybe more than 7 million jobs. Surprisingly, most of them white-collar jobs. The education must address these new social challenges, nurturing core capacities of the young in preparation for the future they will face 15 years or so down the road. Many of you may remember the Mark Watney, the hero of SF movie called Martian, left alone in Mars, and he had to be creative, solve the problems such as making water and growing potatoes by himself, just to survive. The future generations to live in such an ever-changing, unpredictable circumstances. A slew of 21st century skills, including creativity, persistence, motivation, should be taught and fostered through the well-designed courses. The good example is a STEAM education, which is initiated in Korea by the Ministry of Education and COFAC since 2011. As already you know, STEAM combines the STEM education with art. As Saphira said, I'm expanding the horizon of human imagination and creativity beyond confinements of traditional boundaries. Its purpose is also to raise the interest of students in science and technology and motivate them by connecting interdisciplinary knowledge on real-world problems they will face in everyday lives. Here's one example of STEAM project included in a 5th grade in the science textbooks in Korea. This project enables students to design and develop a thermal by themselves, combining STAM component. In this process, they are expected to understand the concepts of heat and temperature and develop skills to apply this knowledge to real-world problems. Korea has been pioneer in STEAM education. MOE and COFAC has been supporting and implementing this education in schools for 5 years. We incubate about 290 leader schools, 757 teacher research groups, trained over 100,000 teachers and managers for the STEAM. We developed about 500 types of STEAM educational contents, outreach programs, combined with the research and R&D development, also developed textbooks, included into school curriculum. Also, we've been supporting science classroom innovations and hosted many STEAM-related conferences and fairs nationwide. So the analysis of our experience of this STEAM's efficacy shows that there are rather significant improvements in students' preference for science and self-led learning capacities and problem-solving abilities. STEAM, it works. Based on this success, we are trying to share our know-how on STEAM education with other countries, such as Vietnam, in remote province of Quang Tri, and it's an underdeveloped region, and with a low ratio of experimental classes for students. Also UAE for training teachers for their future. So in particular, in these times, at the request of many countries around the world. Now, we are really on the verge of fourth industrial revolution that will fundamentally change our way of life, requiring high-quality education for all, with skills, values, attitudes for citizens to tackle global challenges together. Korea and COFAC would like to contribute to realization of SDGs through STEAM education and beyond. Especially, this STEAM is good for girls and youth. So we have a working program, a network of talented teachers and talented experienced teachers, and the most of all, the success experience and story. So COFAC is also in charge of ESD education, software education, creativity education, and science math education in Korea, so that we have a unique capacity to combine all of them and to provide quality education for all, in preparation for the upcoming intelligent information society. So as an African verb says, it takes a village to raise a child. Indeed, it is now time to get every stakeholder of the society to get involved. And COFAC is also ready to get involved and contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It seems the Korea STEAM initiative seems to be very systematically implemented over the years, and then having A between STEM seems to be very much good fit in this theme. So I would like to talk about it more a little later on. But for now, let me introduce Ms. Ann Woo from Samsung Corporate Social Responsibility. Samsung Electronics North America. She's gonna introduce some very concrete example how corporate contribute contribute to promoting STEAM education to the community.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me here. I'm really humbled to be here in Gyeongju as a Korean American, and it's been really exciting to be back in Korea and to be part of this conference. Just to give you some background on how Samsung Electronics views corporate citizenship from an organizational perspective, I'd like to share this just to give you some context about the program. So Samsung corporate citizenship is actually run in different regions across the world. And I run the North American team. That means that while Samsung Electronics has a global footprint, my scope and responsibility is really focused on North America. So I'd like to share with you a program that we've been running for the past 6 years called Solve for Tomorrow. So Samsung has had a history in supporting education in the United States and Canada way back since 2004. But at that time, our commitment was really about bridging the digital divide, bringing technology into the classroom. But in 2010, we really thought to revisit our approach and to really think about how we can make a greater impact among American students. So we changed our program to Solve for Tomorrow, and we presented a challenge to middle and high school students in grades 6 through 12. The challenge question we presented has been, show how STEM can be applied to improve your local community. This program runs concurrent with the school year, so it's a little different. It runs September to May, and is in complement to the course curriculum provided in schools. So we're not trying to substitute classwork and standards. We also, as part of the program and as a technology company, provide toolkits to help the video production, which is part of the contest submission, and then prizes are awarded at each stage across schools. So for context, Samsung supplies $2 million in technology to schools across every state in the country every year. So I'd like to share with you some success stories. I can, after this discussion, talk a little bit about how the contest is run, but I'd like to share 3 quick stories. The first is Nicholson Elementary School in Picayune, Mississippi. They actually worked with their local city to look at storm drains. So you can imagine that sometimes there are leaves or even sometimes basketballs that get caught in the storm drains, and they actually block, and there's a lot of flooding that happens. So the high school robotics team worked with the elementary school to develop a robot that could go into the storm drains with a camera and to see actually what is blocking that. And that's a really simple idea, but actually cost the city thousands upon thousands of dollars because they're visually able to see to determine whether or not they can just blow it out or they have to tear up the street. The second example is Horizon Middle School out of Aurora, Colorado. And you can see in that photo, they're standing with President Obama. They just recently went to the White House Science Fair, and that's something we're very proud of them doing. They actually are in a military community where they have lots of veterans, where unfortunately many of the American veterans returning from war are missing limbs. So using a 3D printer, they actually have created prosthetic limbs for members of their community. And as a result of their experience, this year's project will be building prosthetic limbs for their classmates as well. The last school is Forest View Middle School in Baxter, Minnesota. Now, they built a balloon that goes up almost, I forget how many meters, up a tremendous amount of meters, and they won the contest. What we really liked about this story was that this was an after-school program where STEM teachers and advisors were getting paid less than sports coaches in the school, so they were getting a nominal teaching stipend. But as a result of winning the contest, they realized how important STEM could be, and they've actually equalized the pay for these advisors. So those are 3 quick examples that we see as a result of the program. So Solve for Tomorrow, we really think has a great connection with students. They have a demonstrated need for learning about STEM. Actually, the US rankings in math and science are way below other countries. But it's really in this approachable, non-analog way. It's not a textbook. It challenges you to go out into the community. It capitalizes on existing passion points for civic engagement and empowerment to really change the world. I think we hear that a lot from youth today. And it gives teams an opportunity to engage with students with various degrees of interest in STEM and really take pride in representing their schools. It's not an individual contest, actually schools win. And we see our impact to date. So Solve for Tomorrow started in the US, but has actually moved to 13 regions globally, including South America and in Asia. But, you know, these are just numbers and they're estimates, but I'd like to share a quick video that can really tell that first-person story, which is, the school is Brooklyn Technical High School out of Brooklyn, New York, and they were one of the 2016 winners.
This is my son, Sammy. He was nearly 13 years old when he was struck and killed. The day after Sammy was killed, there were teddy bears on every lamppost for 25 blocks.
I lost 3 of my friends from my middle school within the span of 15 months.
It's an epidemic. 3 children from Sammy's middle school.
Such a sad place. They were run over by cars. The crash that killed him was in front of my house.
It was right near my house.
Everyone was affected by it.
You're scared.
Complete shock.
Just really can't believe it happened. There's times it's just too much.
It changed my perspective on everything.
Different people respond to grief differently. Some people turn into themselves, and some people stand up and say, there's something I can do.
I initially heard about the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow competition when it was put in our daily announcements. I saw it as a possible platform to introducing more people to the idea of street safety. I had an idea to build this app that would detect cars and alert you.
When Allison came to me with the idea for the app, honestly, I thought it was crazy. Once I started working with the team, I thought that this could be something that we could turn into reality, and I had no idea that we would actually be able to do it in the end.
We had to test it many times.
We were kind of exploring somewhat new territory.
An app that, using the sound waves of a car, is able to detect the speed of a car so that it gives you an alert and gives you enough time to move out of the way.
It took a lot of trial and error, a lot of debugging, a lot of tuning, a lot of late nights.
This competition, Solve for Tomorrow, offers them a moment to say, I can make a difference. That's so rare. That's just not something that young people get. They don't have a voice. So to offer them that, it means everything.
I just think it is very impressive that 4 young students have taken it upon themselves to make an invention that will make a difference in many lives.
When I heard somebody ask them, so what are you going to charge for this app? And they said, nothing. We don't want anything. We want people to be safe. This moment said volumes about who they are, who they want to become, and what they want to give to the world.
Sammy was an amazing kid. He wanted to go to school here. He wanted to be one of them. So what they are doing is really making a difference.
They didn't just dwell in sadness. Instead, they came up with something new, something that could help everybody out.
Even with the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow competition being over, there is still a lot more work that is left to be done. So as the world goes on, there's going to be more and more problems, and we need people to fix them.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is very moving, impressive, isn't it? I lost word actually. Here you go. While watching this movie, I was thinking about many things. This students' empathy toward their friends make them build up something using technology, and that actually has huge impact on their community. What if these students has such an empathy towards the people in very underserved and marginalized, unsecured area? What these students can do, they can actually help them out as well, or work together. So we are gonna discuss this a little later on at the end of this whole presentation. But for now, I would like to ask questions for each presenter. For Mexico, it's all about inequality and gender inequality issue and women empowerment. So first, I would like to ask Minister Andrade about your thought. Usually indigenous communities have traditionally been underrepresented in STEAM initiatives, right? Can you speak about Mexico's effort to address these challenges? What challenges has Mexico faced in integrating STEAM in the curricula throughout the Mexico's education system?
Thank you. The Mexican panorama of population is as follows. We have 120 million of population. 11 million are indigenous people from 54 to 56 different communities with different languages. And they are ubicated in close to 200,000 towns with less than 2,000 inhabitants. So we have a very long dispersion of indigenous population in Mexico, but we have a strong permanent policy to protect and to go with services to those kind of communities. So according to the new digital policy, this is an opportunity to open the natural borders that we have as the nature or the orography of the country with a new networking that must be developed by the state. And we have to encourage our indigenous institutions that we have since many decades ago, because we have today a very important agency, almost autonomous from the government, named National Commission for Indigenous People. So this commission has the correct policies to protect and to push the development of the indigenous people, and moreover, to have inclusive policies for indigenous towns. But the necessary condition is to develop at the same time the common telecom networking in order to penetrate at the last place for population.
Well, thank you so much. That is very good initiative. There's a National Commission for Indigenous People. That's very something we want to learn about. So because Korea, I don't think Korea has such a commission. So now I would like to ask a question to Swan. Yeah. So obviously, Korea has been very successful in implementing STEAM into whole public school. Once Korea determined to do something, they make it work, right? And then in the world, the Korea students show the high rank in their academic achievement test. But this is one aspect of our education. But what I want to ask you is this. Is there any civic engagement involved? That's number one. Is it just happening, the school, they just get the good score out of this STEAM subject area? Number two, how the girls perform in this STEAM initiative. Are there any differences between boys and girls in performing the STEAM subject project? And are there some different outcomes?
Mm-hmm.
Number three, sorry for the many questions, but hopefully you can answer very quickly. Third one, 3-4 years ago, when I came to Korea, there was huge issue in terms of the engaging multicultural families, children, 다문화 가정 in Korean, as I heard, right? So I don't think Korea has indigenous people, but Korea has some serious issue with this family whose parents are from different countries. And in implementing STEAM education, it's the same question with the girls, right? Is there any difficulty in engaging those kids? What are the differences, or is there any strategy to engage the civil society and also the girls and women, and also including the multicultural family? Thank you.
Wow.
Sorry.
Those are all difficult questions. Certainly, even after, say, 5 years of our experience, I mean, these are such issues, I mean, related to the society. But I would like to comment that this STEAM education is, in a way, getting stronger with the involvement of so-called ICT technologies. So Korea expanding and making the software education mandatory. So combined with this ICT technology, and it's also making connection with the so-called Baker Educational Initiative. So we have a program for, say, learning by making, which requires involvement of, say, society, or, or citizen movement on the citizen scale. And our STEAM experience tells us that we tend to have a better results for girls when the program is applied to girls. But still we need to do more work on this. And we have certainly the best expert here, the Haesuk Lee, and the former president of VSET. And they've been working very hard to help girls in STEM and STEAM in the area and trying to overcome the gender problems. But because women and girls have more potential to be developed, in particular in Korea, if you want to say culture, say next generation of innovators, especially for those who are underprivileged, who have potential, who do not have opportunities, and then we have to provide them through this STEAM education that includes girls and multicultural, children.
Thank you so much. Thank you for answering very briefly, very well, and for my many questions. Because I was very surprised. Anne is actually Korean American, right?
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know. Welcome. And since being a Korean but living in America, I feel the same with her. So thank you so much for coming here. And then I have a question for you. And actually, I got to know about the Samsung's initiative when I was doing my project also related to education. They were using technology to promote students' empowerment, including girls. And I would like to ask you if you have certain program or some strategy engaging girls more so in this Your Soul for Tomorrow project?
Sure. So Soul for Tomorrow is really classroom-led. So we have girls who are part of the teams. So we have pretty diverse teams that have been through the program. One of the interesting things that we learned while we were doing the program is that there is such a need to really get early intervention in the area of STEM and STEAM with young girls. So in addition to Solve for Tomorrow, we launched an additional program, an offshoot program that we called Empower Tomorrow. And we decided to create a program with 4th and 5th grade girls in some of the most underserved communities in the United States. And for them, and it's often a misconception that the United States has a lot of resources and everyone is better off, but there are certain pockets in the United States where that's not the case. So we built this program to really, it's a girls-only after-school program where we provide curriculum in STEM. But if you asked 4th and 5th grade girls, do you want to learn computer coding or do you want to learn electrical engineering? The answer is usually no, or there's no reaction at all. It's a very complex thing. So we actually changed the conversation a bit and we said, are you creative? You know, do you like, in our case, fashion design, and do you want to be a movie director? And they said yes. So we used computer coding and electrical engineering as the means to actually let them be very creative and to learn these skills in a way that was not so intimidating and was actually pretty exciting. So I think I'm going to skip the video just because of time, but I'd like to just really say that, you know, as a result, we have metrics that show that, you know, girls are more interested in STEM as a result of these more fun programs. But one of the greatest sort of goals for us and, you know, outcomes was really boys coming up to us and asking us how they could be part of the program too, because when we started the program, you know, it took us a little while to get the attention, but now there are waiting lists for kids to be part of our program.
Well, thank you so much. Actually, the corporation's role to the community and society is very important because actually Ambassador Oh might have something to share because the partnership between all the related sector, public and private sector, including company, will really make change. So I appreciate the Samsung's initiative to promote the STEM, also including the girls. Thank you so much. And now we have another distinguished presenter from Bangkok, right? But originally from London, Mr. Jonathan Wong, Regional Advisor on Science, Technology and Innovation, UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. So it's called ESCAP. So here is his thought regarding his expertise to promote STEAM in Asian Pacific area.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me along today. I think to give a bit of a macro context on things, I think it's worth stepping back to September, where the world signed the most ambitious, scary, all-encompassing agreement that the world has ever signed, which is the SDGs, which really are aiming to alleviate world poverty in the next 15 years. I mean, that is a huge, huge monumental task. And what's absolutely certain about this task is that business as usual will no longer be an option, and innovation will be absolutely critical. And of course, STEAM education is the absolute bedrock and foundation of innovation, and which is why it's such an important topic that we're discussing today. Just to give you kind of a regional context of, again, the scale of the issues that we're faced with, I just want to say that the region is home to some of the most innovative countries in the world, Korea being at the forefront, but also some of the most technologically deprived. And major disparities exist in the region. So to give an example, although 50% of the researchers are based in the Asia-Pacific region, 95% of them are based in just 5 countries. I think secondly, globally, women account for 53% of graduates. Now, this falls dramatically to 28% of women who are employed in research activities in science, technology, and innovation. And it's even more acute in Southeast Asia, where only 17% of women are involved in science, technology, and innovation research. I think the third point I would make is that although we all in this room have reaped the benefits of digital technology and the internet, the Asia-Pacific region is actually the most digitally divided region in the world, with only 6% of the population with access to high-speed internet. So these are huge, huge macro challenges that we need to address. And just to leave a few thoughts with you, if business as usual isn't an option to meet the SDGs, what needs to be done? And I'll leave you with 3 points. I think the first thing we need to be is inclusive in how we approach STEAM. Again, really focusing on deliberate action to engage women and girls and marginalized communities. That's the first thing. I think the second thing is we need to adopt the principle of openness. And traditionally, competition has been seen as a driver for innovation, so people compete, the best ideas get to the top, those who succeed move ahead. But I think we really need to move towards this spirit of openness for 2 reasons. I mean, really, we have to ensure that major disparities that exist in the region, that no countries are left behind. So I think we definitely need to collaborate. And secondly, many of the problems that the world faces today have no respect for country boundaries. issues of climate change as an example really kind of cross-country boundaries, and for that reason we need to collaborate and not compete. I think thirdly, we really need to encourage mass innovation and entrepreneurship. And bringing this back to the issue of education, I think this is particularly pertinent. I think traditionally, or certainly many years ago when I was studying, education was centered around learning of historic and current knowledge tested through examination. And I think that model really needs to be complemented by a more challenge-driven model, shall I say. So I think to harness academia for SDGs, we need to focus on challenge-driven education and really focus on generating new knowledge and testing not through examination, but through impact on people's lives, and actually giving students credit for this thing, for these activities in their studies. So I think that's the type of radical shift we need. And I'll just kind of leave you with one thought to ponder. I think to harness mass entrepreneurship and innovation globally, how cool would it be if we had a global digital university for the SDGs? I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I like that idea of the inclusive and openness and the emphasis on education to achieve SDGs. Thank you so much. And here we have Dr. Monika MacDevette, Deputy Director, Division of Environmental Policy Implementation, United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. She's going to talk about her work and her perspective on global citizenship and how she tried to promote STEAM throughout the whole world as a UN member.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the kind invitation to come and speak to you today. One of the first questions that was posed to the panel was, what did we think of global citizenship? Well, from my perspective, global citizenship is really a respect for diversity. It's one of the core values of the UN, something that our Secretary General, who you all know so well and who I just missed by that much this morning, certainly embodies, and that is respect for diversity. But for me, it calls us to be curious. It calls us to exercise tolerance for differences and to seek out ways to expand our horizons and listen to minority voices and to energize change. You can't have change, you can't move forward if you do it in a silo. So two of the things that I want to talk to you about today, not only in my work, but the work of my team and that of UNEP, is gender and education. We've just recently launched the Global Gender and Environment Assessment last week at our UNEP Governing Council meeting, the United Nations Environment Assembly, and so I'll draw a few examples from there. And the other thing that my team does is work in the environmental education and training sphere. And we have a network of over 800 universities called the GUPES Network, which is the Global Universities Partnership for Education for Sustainability. One of the things that we do to enhance education is to really look at how we can mainstream and bring to the table environmental concepts at different levels of education, from early school children onward to tertiary education. And we do this to try and show the linkages between science and policy for decision making. How are decisions made? One of the examples that I can use after spending 24 years in Africa is my adopted home country now, which is Kenya, which is where the UNEP headquarters are. The Kenyan government has in fact created a policy that all school children will have laptops. You know, these little tablet sort of thingies, I guess you call them iPads or otherwise, and that all children should have these at school so that they can fast track education and learning and creativity very early in their years. And this program just started in 2016, so you're finding now a lot of children in schools waving their laptops around and playing with them and really getting engaged, and it's quite exciting to see. But at the same time, in many countries around the world, including in Kenya, you still have schools that don't have toilets. And it might be hard to imagine, and what does that have to do with our topic today? Well, when you don't have toilets, many girls simply don't come to school for 1 week out of a month simply because of biology. So therefore, gender and education have this strange interface in many, many developing countries around the world. One of the things that we work at very hard within UNEP, because we look at the environment from a global perspective, is the intergenerational aspect. So for us, working with young people, working with the youth is incredibly important for building that continuum of understanding around the environment and the need for education to be enriched. In terms of innovation, we look at technology not only as information technology, although we do work with our partners to create these MOOCs, these massive open online courses. And we have a number of them that draw from the content of across UNEP in its many disciplines and get the information out in partnership through these MOOCs and working with the universities. But for me, one of the most important things in terms of bringing forward the idea of STEAM enriching and delivering on the SDGs, as many of the panelists have already said, is changing attitudes and stereotypes. We have to look at how we view science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And from a personal perspective, my father and all of my brothers are engineers, but I'm an engineer as well. I just did genetic engineering. My father and my 4 brothers say, yeah, but Monika, that's not real engineering. And so these stereotypes persist even at the level of our family. And we really do need to break down those walls and those silos and open our minds. And I think we need to look at science not just from the classic hard sciences, but economic sciences, social sciences, bringing humanity back into what we understand as science and technology and engineering to make sure that we bring the full power and goodness of science and technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics to bear on changing societies. One of the things that we've had one African proverb, maybe I'll give you another one, but it's to be inclusive. So not only inclusive thinking and changing stereotypes, but inclusive from that diversity perspective again. And there's an African proverb that maybe some of you have heard, but it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so I hope some of the things that I've said will stimulate your questions in terms of asking the panel. You've got a real richness of experience here that you can tap into. So with that, I'll leave it and open the floor back to our moderator to bring some questions from the floor so we can add some more to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Actually, we started with the concept of global citizens and then the importance of including humanity in it. Actually, Monika made a very good brief summary of getting rid of the idea of the stereotype about the science and then putting the humanity back to it, and it is very important. So in that sense, we would like to share some more thought among the speakers, and then we are gonna open to the floor. By the way, Jonathan was talking about, actually also, Monika talked about, is inclusiveness, right? Jonathan, do you have any, some example you actually promote inclusive and open education or some project?
Sure. I suppose, I mean, back to my first point, I think with an ambitious set of goals as we have with the SDGs, you need mass innovation. Just simply innovation will not be enough. We need to go to every corner of the planet and include every person in that to get the very best ideas. And what always struck me about the process of innovation was that competition was seen as a driver. So as I mentioned earlier, people competed, the best ideas came to the top. And what I really wanted to test was this concept of openness and what would that look like to counter competition. And I'll give an example. Around, I think about 2 years ago now, we ran a competition. This was funded by the UK government to come up with innovative ideas to make women feel safer in very dangerous low-income areas. And traditionally, when a government would run a program like that, and organizations would submit their ideas, the best ideas would get the funding, they would run the projects. And what we wanted to do was change that whole paradigm of competition to make it more open. So we actually engaged a platform of 50,000 problem solvers from around the world to actually look at that problem around making women feel safer in urban environments. And what was interesting was that when people submitted their ideas to the platform, everybody else could see their idea. Now, I had many organizations coming to me saying, well, this is my intellectual property, I'm not sharing this information. And I said, well, look, you don't have to play, but 50,000 other people will. And we saw some really interesting things happening. We saw people who hadn't always or ever engaged in tackling development challenges coming to the table. My mother even submitted an idea to the platform. And we truly kind of, what was really interesting, we really engaged a whole range of actors who had never looked at that problem, which for me is how you get innovation. And I think one of the really interesting examples I will give of how looking to other sectors can really transform and create innovations. I mean, iodine deficiency is a massive problem in India, and many people, again, experience stunted growth and a lack of brain development because of lack of iodine. And indeed, a big problem there is that people just don't take their iodine tablets, or at one point, somebody created a bracelet that you could put on that would slowly give you the iodine you needed to actually be healthy, and people took them off because they were uncomfortable. And this one designer, again, designers who wouldn't necessarily ever have engaged in development problems, said, well, actually, women wear bindis. There. Why don't you just create an iodine tablet that could act as a bindi, put it there, and they will use it because it's something that's part of the culture, and people will get their iodine. And again, that's an example of how engaging with a completely different sector, i.e. the design sector and the arts sector in this instance, really complemented the scientific breakthroughs that were made around treating this intervention. And that's the stuff that I'm really interested in. So I think that's how we can become really open and inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think there is some technology involved in providing the inclusive and open innovation, right? So now, is there anybody among the panelists who wants to talk about using the advance of technology, ICT, what it can offer to promote the STEAM globally and achieve SDGs? Anybody want to mention? Actually, maybe Monika has some idea because she already has some global network.
Thank you for that. Yes, we do have, and I did mention our GUPES network. And one of the things that we are doing is building a number of platforms for accessing information openly and freely. And this is all environmental information, and it's environmental information to help green university campuses, to help bring in green ideas of sustainable consumption and production through to the university fraternity. And I've mentioned the use of MOOCs and that, but we also need to look at other ways of being open. And part of what we are promoting very strongly in UNEP, and this is a policy link, is engaging in citizen science and bringing in more that experiential part of our world and the environment around us. We all know that government provides statistics to the UN Statistical Department, that they read out the official statistics, and policy is only made on official government statistics. But that leaves out the experience of how people live in their environment, how they interact with it. And so more and more technology is allowing and enabling citizens to feed back into their own governments. Governments, remember, represent people. So there's a two-way conversation that can go on now because of technology, mobile phone technology, so that you become an environmental sensor. And you can say, this is how I'm experiencing my environment. And collectively, in addition to and complementary to official statistics, citizen science can bring that voice back into government to say, how do we make a better environment for our citizenry, and how can citizens participate more in that dialogue space with their representatives in government? So I think there's some excitement there that technology really can bring in.
Thank you so much. And then technology can bring many benefits, and then the government involvement seems to be one of the strategies we can invite. So is there anybody who wants to talk about policy matter to make this more effective and have a broader impact of this whole initiatives and STEAM effort. Yes, Minister?
Today, we are living a free environment of networking and a free environment of internet development in each country. And I feel that we should establish certain kind of systematization of the relationship between different countries at the educational field for the generation of global citizen. It's important to cooperate in order to systematize the contents and the kind of interoperational situation of the different networking from the countries. It's necessary to have certain kind of system and certain kind of programs oriented to the conformation of a global citizen. It's not enough to be free. We should orient with certain kind of basis the generation of global citizenship through the cooperation among countries, step by step, in order to have at the same time not only the sum of networking, but networking with a common sense and with a real cooperation.
Well, thank you so much. I think Minister was mentioning we need to create the cooperation, right, collaboration among all the players, and then it's not just one effort, but very systematically, rigorously has to provide the infrastructure as well. So now we have very little time left, but we have a lot of questions with each other, but we would like to give the floor opportunity to ask any question to any of these speakers. So many. So just, yes, you have to stand in the line, then we are gonna give you a chance, but I have to say sorry first. We cannot get all the questions, sorry, but we will have Twitter and UNDP, the handle, so you can post your questions there too. So here, gentlemen.
Eunhee Jung, Handong Global University. This is a general question open to all the panelists. As wonderful as technology is, we know there are adverse effects, including media addiction and interference with face-to-face communication. So when you use technology with the children of developing countries, do you have any measures in place to ensure that technology does not interfere with the development of those children? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we are gonna have two more questions, and then some of these panelists gonna answer any of those questions. Another question? Yeah, here, gentleman.
Thank you. I represent the World Federation for Mental Health. Just a general clarification in light of what Monika shared. To what extent will the humanities, which are very important also in terms of educating the whole person and for our planet's health, to what extent will that be part of the conference outcome document in addition to STEAM?
That's a very important question. Just one more question. Yes, please.
Hello, I have several questions, but then due to time constraint, I would like to ask a question regarding disparities discussed by Mr. Jonathan Wong and Ms. MacDevette. In terms of enhancing the level of equality and decreasing the level of inequality and disparity, a lot of openness and inclusiveness had been emphasized, but then in terms of actually implementing such ideals in reality, what will be the practical and tangible means to attain such goals? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So for now, let's ask our panelists who would like to answer to the first question. technology and engaging the developing country, the children? Yet? Monika?
I suppose 24 years in Africa means that question comes to me. I think all the questions are very good and they sort of hinge on each other. But the question around adverse effects of information technology, what measures are being put in place to ensure that it does not interfere, technology does not interfere with development. It's an interesting way of putting it, technology interfering with development. I would perhaps take a slightly different view and say technology is a natural part of development in certainly our world, the 21st century. But if you're talking about health differences, health effects, mental health, or moving away from playing outside and sitting like this all the time, I have children who do that. I never did. I only got to level 2 on sort of, whatever it was called, Donkey Kong or whatever. But I don't think that we need to safeguard children from exploring, but I think as we all have experienced, and perhaps if we look at the developing world more carefully, we need to look at balance. We need to look at the ability to have freedom, but also to not inhibit that by being overly restrictive from a policy perspective, such as shutting down the internet at certain periods of time or restricting the ability to explore. And so when we look at technology, we have to, I think, take a balanced view of how we allow our children to deal with technology.
Thank you so much. And second question, I'm glad to have this question, including humanity, in our action plan. Who would like to mention on that? Monika, yes.
Okay, well, I can try and answer that question.
Let Anne do that.
For our programs, we know that it's important to have a multi-dimensional approach to how we try and make a difference. And access and opportunity from a bigger scale can be STEAM and all the other tangible parts of it. For our programs, what we try and do is really sort of combine and integrate a lot of the lessons that we're learning in a real way. So, for example, in the video you might have seen very briefly, we have a component of the program, we call it our national finalist pitch event, where we invite the 15 national finalists across the country, and they come to, in the past year it was New York, and they have to present their topic, and they have to build a prototype, they have to come and share the context of what they're doing, why they're doing it, and actually build upon other parts. And one of the big questions we ask is, why did they do this project? Like, what is that, and we talked about empathy earlier, what is that issue in the community that's resonating, and how do you tackle that? So there are soft skills as well as that broach upon different disciplines outside of STEM and STEAM that we try and emphasize as well. We know that while the central point may be STEM, we try and enhance with the other disciplines as well.
Thank you so much, Anne. We have more questions there, and then the third one is specifically for Jonathan. Can you make it 2 sentences, please?
I will try. I'll make 3 points. I think the first thing, it's not going to happen by itself, openness and inclusivity. It's going to need very deliberate action, be it setting targets around women and girls engaged in STEAM as an example. I think on openness, we're seeing several UN initiatives that have been launched quite recently, and one, the technology banked by the Secretary General quite recently, which is about how countries can share information around science, technology, innovation for the global good. I think the third thing I would say is how we become inclusive. What strikes me about having worked in the developing world is seeing the rise of social entrepreneurs. So these are entrepreneurs who aren't just out there to start a business and make money, but actually want to do good as well. And what's really refreshing is how these entrepreneurs are looking at how they can develop products and services for the very poorest. So I think that's another area where, again, for the youth of today, I would very much encourage them to move in that direction. But more needs to be done, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And actually, there are 2 young people have questions, but you should ask this question. Please don't give up, but not this time. But if you can approach us, we can accept the questions, gonna include it in the action plan. So I guess I have to wrap up this session. We talked about the promoting STEAM education to achieve SDGs together, and there was a lot of perspective going on. Importantly, holistic approach to promote the STEAM education is very one of the big important aspect. And also in this process, we have to really sensitive about engaging girls and women, and also fight against inequality. And also technology seems to be something we have to focusing on to promote this impact of STEAM education in achieving SDG goals in a broader sense, right? So we are gonna put all those thoughts into our action plan. If you have any other suggestion, please feel free to approach us and then share your ideas. We have about 10 minutes to share during the break time. Now our session is over. Thank you so much for your distinguished presentation, and thank you so much for listening. Thank you.